On the rain-slicked street of Wan Chai in Hong Kong, where neon signs reflected in the puddles like spilled watercolor, a taxi driver named Kit was trying to catch a break. It was 2 in the morning. The humidity was so thick it felt like the air had turned to gelatin, permeated by the scent of cheap noodles, cigarettes, and stale seawater. The advertising lights, screaming red, poisonous jade green, and pale gold, shattered against his old windshield, turning the world into a psychedelic, flowing blur. Kit was already past 40. By Hong Kong standards, he was part of the invisible, weary night squad, those who picked up passengers the buses or subway no longer carried. The nights were long, and customers were scarce. Kit sat in his faithful but worn yellow Toyota Comfort, which had become both his fortress and his prison. High competition and daytime traffic jams ate up most potential earnings, leaving only the night hours to make ends meet. He often complained to himself that the night business took not only his money but his last reserves of strength, draining energy from his spine and leaving him with phantom pain in his lower back and a constant taste of fatigue in his mouth. His wife had long stopped asking when he would return. His schedule was chaos, his life one long waiting game. Kit was used to the solitude, to the silence broken only by the mumbling of the old radio and the rhythmic tapping of the rain. He was almost dozing off when he noticed movement. Around 2 in the morning, when the streets were nearly deserted, Kit saw a figure by the entrance of an old office building with a dark, granite facade, which looked like a silent relic of the colonial era. It was a woman, standing under a small, narrow awning. She was the only person for blocks, and Kit felt an instinctive, euphoric gratitude. Finally, a fare. He started the engine, which immediately grumbled with the old diesel sound, and slowly, carefully, so as not to splash her, pulled up to the curb. The door opened and closed quietly. She sat down in the back seat. "I'm going to the Kowloon Tong district," she said in a quiet, almost whispered voice. The voice was so calm it seemed to belong to the night itself, not a living person. Kit, automatically starting the meter, nodded. "All right. Where exactly?" "I'll tell you when we get there," came the dry, final reply. No unnecessary words, no apologies. Kit pulled away, feeling his back ache again. He immediately noticed what she was wearing. It was a traditional Chinese dress, a qipao, made of dark blue silk. The dress was flawlessly tailored, clinging to her tall figure, but it looked a little old-fashioned, as if it had stepped out of a half-century-old film photo. In fast-changing, modern Hong Kong, a woman dressed like this at 2 in the morning seemed like a character lost in time. His Toyota, like many Hong Kong cars, was equipped with a small, auxiliary rearview mirror for passengers, mounted on the back of the driver's seat. Kit usually ignored it, but as they drove, sinking into the roar of the tunnel, where the noise of the old Toyota drowned out all thought, Kit automatically glanced into it. He saw her reflection. She was sitting perfectly straight, her pale hands folded in her lap. But there was something strange, instantly killing his fatigue. Her reflection was not looking at the road, nor at the meter, but directly at him, into his eyes. The gaze was focused, penetrating through the thin seat material and the glass. It wasn't just a look, it was intense scrutiny. Kit felt an icy chill run down his spine, despite the heat in the cab. He instinctively, abruptly, looked into the regular driver's rearview mirror. There she sat, quietly looking ahead, her head slightly bowed, as if she were dozing. "Normal." He exhaled. Deeply. He blamed it on fatigue, a neon glare, or his nervous system, worn out by night shifts. But the image of the staring, unblinking reflection had already burrowed into his mind, and he knew this ride wouldn't be ordinary. He could already feel the mounting tension in the air, heavier than the Hong Kong humidity. He turned away, trying to convince himself that it was a trick of the mind. Kit gripped the steering wheel tightly, feeling the rough leather against his sweaty palm. His heart hammered, beating in sync with the roar of the old engine. "It's fatigue," he repeated to himself. "A trick of the light, damn the neon." But the image of the staring reflection was lodged in his consciousness like a splinter. He was driving through the streets of Kowloon, drenched in gold and orange light from the street lamps, yet he felt increasingly isolated from the world. The yellow taxi had become a tiny, sealed capsule in the middle of the seething night. The second time he looked into the passenger mirror wasn't after a minute, but after an eternity that lasted mere seconds. He couldn't help but look. It was a compulsive, painful curiosity. The reflection was still staring at him. Now it was even more intent and unnervingly still, as if the entity on the other side of the glass had aged in those moments, deepening its gaze. In the reflection's eyes, there was an expression Kit couldn't fully comprehend. It wasn't anger or threat, but something far worse, something between a sorrow that spans centuries and a deep, personal reproach. This gaze knew Kit. He remembered his life, the broken promises he made to his wife, the money he lost gambling long ago, which he still kept secret, the petty lies that had become a habit just to get by. All those small, shameful sins, carefully hidden beneath the guise of a tired, honest worker, now seemed to be read and judged in that mirror. Kit felt shame, mixed with a primal fear, burning in his throat. "How much do I owe you?" the look seemed to ask, not about money, but about the price of his soul. Kit swallowed. His throat was dry, as if he were driving through a desert, not humid Hong Kong. He was an old, pragmatic driver, but this fear was ancient and irrational. This was not a fear of a ghost, but of his own conscience, materialized by someone else. He resolved not to look in the mirror again, trying to halt the irrational game through sheer willpower. He focused on the road signs, the lane markers, the rhythmic tap of the wipers. "Are we close?" Kit asked. He tried to keep his voice sounding natural, to hide the tremor that had started in his fingertips and was creeping up his arms. "Almost," the passenger replied. Her voice was quiet, even, and emotionless, yet it held a barely perceptible note of impatience. He concentrated desperately on the road, but his sleep-deprived brain was working against him. He knew he had to check. Kit turned his head to check the regular driver's mirror. He needed to see the real woman, a normal passenger sitting with her head down. In that very instant, as his gaze shifted, the passenger in the reflection of the auxiliary mirror swiftly turned her head to follow his movement. It was as if they were playing a gruesome game of peeking, and the reflection was afraid he would cheat and discover its secret. The movement was near instantaneous, and it was deliberate. Kit's stomach clenched. This wasn't a defect in the glass. This was stalking. This entity in the back was bound to the reflection. And the reflection was alive. He drove into Kowloon Tong. The night here was thicker, quieter. The streets became narrower and darker. Kit was drenched in cold sweat, despite the muggy Hong Kong air. He drove slower, listening intently to every sound, the faint rustle of the qipao, the hum of the tires. And the most terrifying sound of all, the complete absence of breathing from the back seat. He heard neither an inhale nor an exhale. Kit's internal monologue turned into a scream. "Why you here? What do you want?" He felt the back of his neck burning under her invisible yet all-encompassing gaze. His pragmatism had completely collapsed. Now, only one desire remained: to end this nightmare immediately, reach the destination, let her out, and run. They passed a block where empty, dark apartment buildings, marked for demolition, stood. She was waiting for him to take her where she needed to go, to show him the truth. His nerves were frayed. He knew it would all end soon, but the anticipation of the climax was unbearable. He felt as though he was entering not a district, but a trap that he himself had accepted when he stopped under the awning in Wan Chai. Kit stopped the taxi. The headlights were swallowed by the darkness of the street, illuminating only the facade of the single, abandoned granite building, which stood like a mausoleum from the colonial era. It was scarred by cracks and mold, yet its geometry was terrifyingly precise. Here, on the corner of Kowloon Tong, there was absolute silence, broken only by the hiss of the old diesel engine. The taxi meter read 98 Hong Kong dollars and 50 cents. "We are here," Kit managed to whisper, his voice a foreign, dry rustle. He didn't turn, he didn't check the mirrors. He simply waited. His only goal was to hear the door slam shut and see the entity vanish into the darkness. The woman did not move. Finally, after a long, unbearable pause, she spoke. Her voice was the same quiet whisper, but now it sounded cold, like water from a deep well. "You do not ask why I requested to stop here, Kit." It was not a question, but a statement. He flinched. She had called him by his name for the first time. How did she know? "I don't need to know," he replied, trying to sound firm. "That'll be 98.50. You are in a great hurry, aren't you? A hurry to escape what you had to see. What you learned about yourself while looking into the mirror." Kit froze. A clammy chill soaked his shirt. He finally, slowly, lifted his gaze and looked into the regular driver's mirror. The woman sat there, as always, calmly. But this time her eyes were wide open and fixed on him. And in that moment, he realized that he had never once looked into the real, regular mirror since she got in. He had been looking only into the small, auxiliary passenger mirror, which was merely a piece of tinted glass glued to the seat. A mirror he installed for passengers to fix their hair, and which was too old and smudged to provide such a clear, sharp reflection. What mirror is that?" Kit rasped. The woman in the back seat slowly raised her pale hand and touched the back of the seat in front of him. In that instant, the small passenger mirror flared from within with a dim, bluish light. "It is not a mirror, Kit," she whispered. "It is memory. The memory that holds everything you tried to forget while sitting alone in this car. Every driver who has ever taken me had to see the truth." Her gaze, now absolutely direct, became unbearably heavy. Kit saw that the woman in the regular mirror and the entity in the small memory mirror were two halves of a whole. One was the shell, the other was the essence. "You are your own verdict, Kit. You are a man lost in waiting. In debt, in fatigue, in petty lies. You have become empty." With those words, she leaned forward. Kit, paralyzed by terror, could not tear his eyes away from the mirror. The entity in the small mirror began to distort, slowly, before his eyes. The clear reflection gave way to a fluid, dark stain that started to resemble Kit's own face, but younger and full of despair. He saw his own younger double in the mirror open its mouth in a silent scream, and the despair of that scream was so real that Kit felt his own chest constrict. It was his own fear and his own conscience, reflected and materialized. "That'll be," Kit began, but his voice broke off. He found that his hand, which a minute ago was tightly holding the wheel, was now covering his own face, pressing against his sweaty temples. When he was able to lower his hand, he looked into the regular mirror. The back seat was empty. On the seat where the woman had just sat lay a neatly folded 100 Hong Kong dollar banknote and a small, broken pocket mirror. Kit didn't take the money. He looked only at the shattered mirror. Its shards reflected the lights of Kowloon Tong, but contained nothing except a distorted, empty glow. He slowly turned off the engine. In the silence of the night, in that abandoned district, Kit felt the fatigue that had weighed on him for years recede for the first time. But in its place came a chilling, frightening clarity. He was free of the ride, but not free of himself. He would never forget the lesson. In Hong Kong at night, don't stare too long into your reflections. They might stare back and demand payment, not in money, but in truth. Kit drove away from the abandoned building, leaving the money and the broken mirror shards on the seat. He had to go home and finally talk to his wife. Thank you for watching the final chapter of The Mirror Passenger. If you enjoyed Kit's terrifying ride through the dark streets of Hong Kong, please show your support. Thumbs up like this video if you felt the chill. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the ending. Did the reflection get the final payment it truly wanted?